Welcome back to Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel and Oakbridge Wealth Management. I'm Matt Perkins, joined as always by Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein. Bernie, how are we doing today?
Man, Matt Perkins, we're gearing up for a snowstorm. It's freezing everywhere. Not so much or worse in Wisconsin, but Matt Perkins, every day on this podcast is a holiday. And I'm pumped to talk to our guest today about all the craziness that's happening in this month and looking towards a bright future.
Absolutely. Yes. Our guest is new offensive line coach Eric Mateos. We are so pumped to have him today because we all know offensive line coaching is a calling. It takes a special kind of guy to be an offensive line coach. And, we are so pumped to see that, talk with him about all sorts of stuff. Coach, thank you so much for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to hang out with us here.
Yeah, of course. No, this is cool. I like doing this as a little break from the chaos. So just feel like a normal guy for a half hour or whatever. So it's my pleasure.
Yep. Well, Coach, you bring up chaos, and I'm sure for the last month and a half, it has been bananas for you. What's that transition? What's it like for the end of your season before to now coming in and you see negative degrees again? I don't know if you're used to that in Madison, but for the next couple nights or 2 weeks, it's all negatives. What was your transition like from the end of your season to now sitting where you're sitting?
Well, it's first off, the cold has been like a reminder that I do have a tough guy inside of me. And I do need to bring him out at times still, even though you get so far removed from your football days, you forget that you were once a tough guy. And so that's all that this has been for me with the weather. But no, it's just been crazy. The season ends, and for us at Arkansas, our head coach got let go in September. So you're kind of way ahead of there wasn't really like a shock and awe at the end of the season that's like, hey, you're going to be leaving. It's becoming more and more popular for these coaches to make changes earlier in the seasons. And so for me, I anticipated, me and my wife Jillian, we anticipated that we were going to be doing something different. So it wasn't too overwhelming from that standpoint. But then once you kind of pick the spot you want to go to, then that's when it's like, hey, get in the car, drive. Next day, you're meeting with players before they go on break, and you're gearing up for the recruiting aspect of it. So all that's been fast paced and moving quick, but it's not my first rodeo. I've done it before, and it's never easy. It's all different, and it's always, your worst day of your new job is always the first day, because you don't know where to park, you don't know where the bathrooms are, you don't know where the coffee is, and it's like you feel kind of lost. And then after a couple of days, you settle your feet and realize everybody's just same as they were at your old place, and good people. So, and the people at Wisconsin have made it really easy. I mean, shout out John Richter, the football operations. I mean, he's made my life and my wife's life really easy, and a lot of the support staff around the building have made it pretty easy for me.
Well, one of the unique things about changing jobs in 2026 is you don't have to just get to know the guys on this new roster. You're also going out there and recruiting guys in the portal, like day one, which is insanity, especially, where at UW you guys brought in, I think, 5 new offensive linemen, something like that, maybe even 6. It was a lot of new guys heading in. What is the process like for you in terms of getting to know the guys who are on the roster, and in this case, the one recruit coming in, and Brady Beckenwies, and the watching tape from last year's team and reviewing tape for guys you might want to attack in the portal?
Yeah, I mean, it just takes some organization of thought. You got to learn a lot of new names really quickly, and it's like speed dating is how I've described it to a couple of coaches. Is you're speed dating, and when you're trying to find your wife, you're taking some time, and you have months or years to get it figured out on whether it's a good match, and both player retention and meeting your new players, and transfer portal recruiting is speed dating. And it's you have a small window to make an impression on somebody or make them believe in your vision, really present your vision, make them believe in your vision, and then convince them why it's the right thing for them to do to play for you. And that happens fast. You got to stay organized. You have to think quickly. You have to make decisions quickly. So it's just unique, whereas in high school recruiting can be months or years of relationship developing, and all of a sudden, you're trying to put together a championship level offensive line in a few weeks. And that's a big part of that is retention. A big part of that is selling your current roster on why they need to play offensive line for Wisconsin in 2026. So it's been good, though. The resources here have been great. Have allowed me to do my job the way I need to do it. And the kids that are here are already great. And so it's been a really positive experience. I've had much more stressful transitions, I'll tell you that. So this has been a good one.
So, Coach, I have to assume I'm always fascinated with the portal and like how fast and how bananas it is. Mm-hmm. But you must get in the seat. And is there a team that has cut-ups of the top 10 guys you have? Because they're all from different teams. It's not like you're watching the Badgers right off the bat. You're watching dudes from Ole Miss, dudes from other places. Like, what is that process like?
Well, I think if you're any good, you've been developing ideas of players for years. I started recruiting Austin Kowecki in 2021 when he was a junior in high school. And so I think if you're in this day and age, if you're wise, you're keeping tabs on kids and you're remembering kids who you recruited and you're building relationships with, and you're remembering their talent level that they have. And so, yes, there are a lot of players you watch that you don't know anything about, and you kind of have to investigate quickly. I would say I'm more, I'm probably never going to sign an O lineman out of the portal that I don't have a trusted resource providing me information or have a previous relationship with the player. And I know things about them already on a personal level. I can't think of a single guy I've ever signed in the portal that there was just total cold, no previous relationship, nobody I could call to give me information on them. So I think that's another important part of it, because, when you are speed dating, if you can get a hint on whether or not, this girl's keyed somebody's car before and her last boyfriend, that would be beneficial to know during that 1 minute conversation. So take it with a grain of salt. And then, and sometimes kids that you sign in the portal, like I remember one time I had a kid that I signed, I say kid, but I had a graduate that I signed from another school who the O-line coach hated him. And I had conflicting reports. I had somebody telling me one thing. I had his O-line coach at his other school telling me how much he didn't like him. And, then that's when it gets hairy, because then you have to make a decision on okay, who am I going to trust on this? And can I gather enough of my own opinion on the person to make an educated decision? So, but I think if you're good at your job, I think you have an idea of who a lot of the people are out there. Because in high school recruiting now, you're not really even recruiting just to sign them in your class. You're recruiting, building relationships to sign them in 3 years when they get in the portal. So there's a lot of angles to it, I guess, is the best way to.
The job has changed drastically for all coaches.
My wife says this is not the job that you signed up for. She says that all the time, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's not.
In the last 10 years alone, it must have gone from not even 360, 180, 360. Like it's been absolutely bananas. Wait, coach. So you say you call some resources without giving away trade secrets or anything you want. Like, what are you asking the coaches or the relationships you have?
It's usually like character questions, do they like football? Or they, and that seems like a silly question, but that's honestly one of the hardest things to find with offensive linemen is the guys that actually like wake up thinking about football and love football. And, with different distractions these days, that's becomes a huge priority for me is finding the guys that actually like to play. But it's mostly like that. Same thing the scouts would call me about, asking about college players. The scouts aren't going to ask me, hey, do I think this guard's deuce blocks are really good? They're not going to ask me that. They have the film. They're going to watch the film. They're going to decide whether or not they think the guy's a good pass blocker or not. They're not, so I'm not asking that question either. I'm asking like, hey, when things get hard, how does he act? Hey, how does he learn the playbook? How does he retain the information? How does he interact with his teammates? So those are the important parts of the evaluation process.
So, Coach, you bring up team. Sorry, Matt Perkins. I know you have 100 questions. You bring up team. This is an NIL portal kind of world we're living in. How do you build, the O-line when I played, these were dudes who were there for 5 years, guys who played multiple games together. And at the end, like when I was a senior, you could feel that, right? We would always plug and play one guy who graduated, and you could feel it. What's it like? How do you build a team, and how do you get that room ready to play as a unit?
I think that's kind of the secret sauce now. I don't, without saying specifics, I mean, just the conference I just came from, the SEC, if you go and look at some rushing stats in that conference from last year, you would see some historically prominent logo schools that weren't very good at running the football and didn't have very good play on the offensive line.
We'll say it, Alabama.
And when you are putting together an offensive line, the cohesion is so much more important. And so like that's something I took a lot of pride in at Arkansas is compared to our peers in our conference, we were one of the more efficient, mistake-free groups. And the only way you get that is by playing together. And so it is. You're right. It's the most important part of this whole process is building the room as a unit and giving them a reason to have selfless devotion to each other, and rather with all these other monetary reasons and selfish things that are out there for us to all chase. Making sure that you have the group that's motivated by the right factors. And I think that's really the secret sauce. And so how do you do it? It's not overnight. It's not one trip as a group to a restaurant and oh yeah, now we're close. It's just repetitive every day. And I think as the coach, you have to model it. I think I have to be, I'm a transfer, I'm a new guy on a new team and amongst my colleagues upstairs and I have to model what I want, how I want them to be. And so it starts with me and how I interact with my other coaches and how I interact with players. And, but yeah, I think that's the secret sauce now because, you could do, I love this like thing I've seen since the national championship game. I keep seeing this rating on social media. It's like talent index. And I was like, I've never heard of this. Like, what does talent index mean? Like, I said, this team that won had the smallest talent index. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But what I know is that I've had a lot of years where maybe my O-line wasn't the most talented in our conference, but we played the hardest or played together the best. So now it doesn't mean you're making exceptions and not recruiting talented players. But at the end of the day, we're going to be judged on our production. And, the only way you're going to get that is by bringing the group together.
Hey folks, before we continue, I want to remind everyone tuning in that we continue to be proudly presented by Chris Anicetti and his entire team over at Oak Bridge Wealth Management. If you're a collegiate athlete or parent of a collegiate athlete navigating NIL opportunities, Chris and his team are here to help maximize your earnings and protect your future. We all know that athletes train hard to be the best on the field, but who's making sure they're winning off the field? Chris Anicetti and his entire team at Oak Bridge Wealth Management. That's who. They don't just manage your money, they handle your entire financial world. From building a rock-solid financial plan tailored for athletes to paying bills, budgeting, setting up LLCs, and securing financing for cars, equipment, and whatever else you need so that you can focus on your game. Your career is short. Make every dollar count. Oak Bridge Wealth Management, where athletes build lasting wealth. Get in touch with Chris on Instagram at oakbridgewm_Anicetti. That's oakbridgewm_ANICETE, or head on over to their website at oakbridgewealthmgmt.com. Chris Anicetti, Oak Bridge Wealth Management, they've been helping a lot of NCAA athletes and professional athletes get their money right. There's no one else better for this around that you are going to find. So make sure to get in touch with Chris and support the people who support us. All right, we're going to hop back into the show. Well, you talked about modeling those relationships with other coaches. The coach that you have the longest relationship, obviously, here on the staff is Coach Grimes. And I have to imagine that he was one of the big selling points in wanting to come with Madison and wanting to, reunite with him. You guys were together at Baylor. You guys were together at BYU and had some very successful offensive lines. What has it been like to reconnect with Coach Grimes, and what makes it so that you guys work so well together?
Yeah, it's been great. Grimey was a big influence on me when I was young, and he hired me without even knowing me when I was a young coach, and we've had a lot of history together, and so it's been really good. It's I'm sure my wife and his wife Sherry are probably even more excited to link back up, and but it's been really good. I think the reason that we're able to mesh is we kind of know each other. Like, we know each other's fleas and we know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And we both, I think, have kind of a maturity about us to, like, hey, he knows I like certain things and I know that he likes certain things. And then, like, we know what we don't agree on. And I think we just have enough maturity to both sides. Like, I've always been grateful to him because he's let me coach the O-line how I wanted to coach the O-line. And, when you sign up to work for a coordinator who's a 25-year-old line coach, there's a lot of O-line coaches that would, balk at that. But I kind of I see it the other way around. Like, I get to work for a guy who's been in my shoes, who knows what it's like when the coordinator calls an impossible play for the O-line in an impossible situation. He calls the game with that in mind. And so I'm really grateful for that. And, I don't know, it's changed over the years, our relationship, and, we're really close now and bounce ideas. But I also think, like, we can go at each other's throats and, be fine in 10 minutes. And, we've had a couple of those over the years, and, we still get along great. So I think he's always provided me with a very organized structure that I need, because I'm a little bit more of a outside the box thinker. And sometimes because of that, I can be a little bit unorganized, a little bit all over the place as far as, like, game planning. Like, hey, what if we do this? And he'll be like, hey, listen, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about this. So we'll get back to that, but we need to rewind and finish this thought first. And I'm like, that's the kind of help that I need, because I'm always like, I'll go from a play action protection and then be thinking about a new run idea 5 minutes later. And he's like, hey, time out. We're still talking about the protection, buddy. And so I think we have a little bit of yin and yang there that is beneficial for us.
Well, I love to hear that, because I think that's super important in kind of digging this offense. I don't want to say off the ground, like getting us off the ground.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, because we have a fearless leader in Coach Fickle, and I actually would say fearless because he's been catching a ton of heat and he seems to be grinding, and some of the stuff I see on social media and his message to the team, I love. What's your first impression or your impressions of Coach Fickell?
It's ultimately why I decided to take this job. I mean, I had some options, like all coaches do, and there was one of the first questions I got from the my peers and my wife, and was like, "Hey, is this the right time to go to Wisconsin?" And after I talked to Coach Fickell, I 100% was bought in, and I just think that somebody that has, I think one thing that impressed me was his self-awareness and like his assessment of where the program was and some of the shortfallings that had happened, and but also his vision to get it fixed. And I've been really impressed with him. I like how he's a no-nonsense guy. There's no fluff. There's no, like, I think some head coaches are like a glorified, marketing campaign all the time. And even in the office, I've seen some guys that are it's going around like they're politicians. And, that's not really something that I look at as like a positive for college football. I know it's good for clicks and internet sound bites, but I really like he's just a very straightforward, he's an O-line, D-line guy. He's been in those battles. And I think anytime you work with somebody who's put their hand on the ground, I think there's just like a different level of respect, because they've been in those games where your fingers are facing the wrong way and there's blood all over your pants, and so I really have enjoyed getting to know him and seeing his coaching style, and it's a big reason why I'm here.
Yeah, I think Coach Fickell has always sort of had that mentality, right? Especially as a former defensive tackle, he has that toughness to him that I think we always appreciate, especially when times have been tough lately in Madison. I mean, you know that coming in, people are not. I've been disappointed honestly in the offensive line play, because Wisconsin is known as one of the great offensive line schools in history. And so what does it mean to come to a program that has, the tradition of producing, elite offensive linemen going back to, the Aaron Gibsons of the world, Joe Thomas and guys like that, even in more modern times, still guys who are turning out, all pro seasons in the NFL?
I mean, there's a lot of pressure to it, but I mean, I was telling us, one of the nice things that recruits will ask me is like, why did you choose Wisconsin? And I don't know, maybe it was surprising to some. I don't know, but I guess I've just always kind of been attracted to like opportunities to repair offensive lines. That's kind of been the theme of my career, is I've taken over O-lines that are maybe not doing so hot, and kind of get them flipped around. And, I guess I'm a O-line flipper instead of a house flipper. I watch a lot of HGTV on the road when I'm recruiting. So that's like my sound that I put on in my hotel rooms when I'm working, as I put on house flippers. But anyways, I think I'm just attracted to that. And then when it's like, you're telling me I can do this at O-line like just the combination of those factors has been really motivating for me, and it was a big reason why I wanted to do this. And there's also a lot of pressure with it, which is, I like it. I think if you have any kind of guts to you, you want to take challenging jobs. I had a point in my career where I turned down a team that just won a national championship, and I turned down their O-line job. And my wife made the comment a few years later, like, "Hey, when are you going to take an O-line job where the O-line's good already?" And because I turned one down, and I said, I think that's not really very O-line of me to do. So I think that it's a huge responsibility. I'm really excited about it, and that's that was a huge selling point to me, was if we can get this thing back on the tracks it's supposed to be on, then we can be different than other people. We can sign high school kids and retain them for 5 years, and maybe not always try to hit the portal for 3 or 4 players. Maybe we might only need one guy, 1 year. And that's really the goal, is to kind of get this thing back to where, hey, we're recruiting high school, we're developing players, and we're putting them in position to when their time is there to go take advantage of it. Now, it's a challenge because these guys all want to play. And, Bernie made the comment about fifth-year guys. Well, it's hard to do. It's hard to keep them. You might have a player who's not ready till his third or fourth year for the prime time, and my job is to convince them that they're doing the right thing by staying at Wisconsin, and so that's going to be the biggest focus, but also restoring like the pride and the alumni, I think, is really important, because one of my selling points to recruits has been, hey, listen, there's a lot of schools you can go and everybody's showing up to see this guy and see this position. Like, the fans are going to show up in Camp Randall. They are expecting to see a kick-ass offensive line. And so there's not a lot of schools where you can go where it's like there's some fan out there who's like, man, I can't wait to see the O-line today. and that's just a different mentality for this school. So how could you not want to be the O-line coach at a place like that?
Especially with Wisconsin's just football culture is absolutely insane. Saturdays are for the Badgers, Sundays for the Packers. Like, it's bananas. It is a great listen. I love what you're saying, because I think we need a repair, and I'm excited when you were hired. I was excited because I think you got the tools. But when you come in, you watch the film. Some guys were starters who are still in the room. What did you see from the O-line of last year that you could possibly correct? And what are you going to attack for next year? Or coach, more of like, what's your coaching style? What are you looking for? Do you want more guys to be aggressive? Do you want them to be nasty? Like, do you want him to be a finesse guy? Like, what's your coaching style, and what did you see from last year that you're hoping to change for this year?
Well, you're not gonna ever interview or talk to any offensive line coach that is going to tell you like, hey, we're looking for more of a finesse style offensive line. And then I also think there's kind of a misconception out there that your scheme determines your physicality. I think physicality is what's demanded of the players and training, and then what they put on the tape. And so what I would say, like, I'm looking for the same thing that every other O-line coach is going to tell you that he's looking for. So I don't have some like cool, new, creative answer. I'll say this: players are going to do what you demand of them. And it has to be demanded, and there can't be any exceptions to the rule. Those standards that we all believe that are the most important for offensive line. I mean, you could go ask, an 80-year-old man at the local diner, hey, what's a great O-line look like? And he's going to tell you exactly what it looks like. So it's not some trade secret, but the secret is really demanding it and getting it out and getting it on the film, and the guys playing together on the film. And so when people watch the Wisconsin offensive line in 2026, they're going to see 5 guys that are seeing the game through one set of eyes, who have a very high football IQ, understand football, and know what to expect from the defense, know how to defeat different styles. Hey, this week, this 3 technique plays 1 gap. Next week, this 3 technique plays 2 gap. That's something that fans don't really care. They don't really care about what style the D-line plays with week in and week out. But that's where it's like my job to make sure that, our deuce blocks look a little bit different versus this team than the other team, because we're playing a different style of defense. So I think like the football IQ piece is really important. And then just demanding the finish and just having kind of a gang mentality, that it's kind of like us versus the world. And even in a home game, you kind of have to have that feeling, because, the O-line mentality is this: like, you could whoop somebody's ass 67 plays out of 70, and then you give up 3 sacks, and that dude's going to be player of the week, and you're going to have some granny in the stands saying the O-line sucks, and that's the life we chose, man. I mean, it's like the mafia. We chose this life, and you can't be surprised when you get whacked. And I think it's one of those deals where you got to embrace that part of the position, but ultimately the coach has to demand it, and we can talk and say whatever we want today, this morning, but unless it's on the film, then it's all fluff. It's all, hot air coming out of my mouth.
So I know we're running out of time. You talk about the mental aspect is your side of the I don't know, playing field. The physical side comes to Brady Collins, who we love. Mm-hmm. How do you get in with him? How do you interact? What's the communication? And what does he tell you, and what do you tell him about kind of what your need from your offensive line physically?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of stay in my lane a little bit. I think that's part of it is like, if I'm down in the weight room and I see that a guy's not giving max effort, that's where I can come in. That's if I see a guy is like just blatantly not doing the technique right on a lift that was explained, that's where I can come in. But at the end of the day, like I'm a bench squat, so I don't, all these different things they do in the weight room, I don't even know what they're doing. I don't even know what they're working. So I don't even know what muscles are being used because, my O-line coach was my strength coach. So, but I think like the interactions is, he's not only is he training the body, he's training the mind too. And so I think as long as me and him are on the same page as like the mentality that we're looking for from the players, that's really coming from him as well. So I think it's just kind of being a good tag team and supporting each other on whichever we need. And I love Brady's enthusiasm and his passion for the big guys. And he's all during recruiting, he's like, "How's this going? What about this guy? Are we recruiting this guy?" So he was excited to get some new guys, but also like he's got a real passion to developing the guys that are here. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes this winter.
All right. Well, we're going to get you out of here with a couple rapid fire questions, which I always like to do. Maybe a little bit stranger. The first one, though, for you. What's your favorite drill in practice to have your guys run?
A favorite drill? We'll do something just like competition drills with each other, I think is the best, like a reach drill, where they have to reach each other, or like just like an old school board drill. I mean, I think anytime you kind of make them compete with each other, it gets things livened up a little bit.
What's your favorite thing about your wife?
She's the opposite of me. She's very sweet, calm, collected, and I'm kind of full tilt all over the place. And unfortunately for her, both our daughters are like me.
I got that same exact problem, Coach. Or a positive. I think I love my kids, but they're strong knuckleheads, and that's what I am. Yes.
All of the coaches at UW are put in a cage match, Royal Rumble style. Who's coming out on top?
All the coaches. You just got to go to the head coach. He models the toughness and grit that you want, and you got to assume that he's gonna come out on top.
And he'll tell you he was an undefeated high school wrestler as well, so he's a pretty good one there.
I've heard him talk about his son's wrestling, and I'm like, I'm glad that Coach Fickle was not my dad talking to me about it.
All right, the guy won like 159 in a row in Ohio. It's not like he went to like my high school. Like the dude was he was a serious wrestler.
Listen, the only moves I know is like Stone Cold Stunner and Tombstone, so I don't even pretend to know what I'm talking about.
The Tombstone? I agree.
All right, last one. You're on the road. Give us your ideal dinner: an app, an entree, 2 sides, and a dessert.
Oh man, you don't ever get a chance to have an appetizer anywhere. I think I really do like doing home visits and eating at a recruit's home, and like just when a family takes the time to prepare you a meal at their home, I think that's a really unique experience. And because you grow up and you have all the things that your parents made for you, and then I was in Chicago the other day and Mom made Italian beef, and I'm like, I've never had Italian beef in my life. So you get kind of a flavor of different places you go, and you get a sense of like how people approach their dinner. So I just really like doing that. But
what's the best thing you've had to eat at a recruit's home?
The best one?
The best one or the most original or most different for you?
I think I had. I'd say when I was recruiting Louisiana, there was something. It was something seafood. I'm pretty sure it was fish. I don't know for sure, but it was fried, and it could have been anything. But I remember one time I was recruiting Louisiana, and I had something fried seafood, and I didn't even ask what it was. I just ate it. And what gets hard is when you have the 2 home visits in one night, and you have to eat dinner at one house, and then you got to go to the next house, and they make you dinner, and you have to kind of like, you're like babysitting your food because you're so full, but you have to eat it, otherwise, you're gonna offend mom. So, but there's some good ones. Usually for me though, like my nutrition is like gas station taquitos and energy drinks during recruiting.
Perfect. It's always Louisiana. It's always Louisiana. You're going to eat something strange. So it's usually pretty good, but it's not going to be normal. So that is going to do it for us here today on Believe in Badgers, part of the Believe Network presented by FanDuel and Oak Ridge Wealth Management. We cannot thank you enough, Coach Mateos. You are so busy. You're on the road recruiting, getting to know your players, these portal guys, potential high school recruits, and we had an awesome time as expected, and we hope that you did as well. We appreciate everyone tuning in here. So until next time, and always, thanks for tuning in, and on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Oh, I got to do it.
There it is.
Caught me off guard.
Hey, thanks, Coach.